If you're looking to upgrade your audio experience, do not skip this video because I'm going to be going through the best IEMs at around $350. There has been a lot of hyped IEMs at this price range, so my job is to give you the honest take and cut through the fat. Starting off with some new ones, we got the Kyrios Astros. If you want an all-rounder that is less shouty than the Harman counterparts, this is going to be sub-bass focused. It's going to be fun, dynamic, it's got the energy and the treble. It's pretty contrasty and overall just very engaging while having the technicalities to back it up. However, if you want something more traditional, more familiar, similar to a Harman presentation, then that would be the EPZ K9 and the SimGot EM10s. The main difference here is that the K9 is going to be less shouty in the vocals versus the EM10s. It's going to be slightly warmer, smoother. Overall, you can say it's more musical and less Harman versus the EM10s. The EM10s, on the other hand, is basically a Harman sub-bass boosted set. It is less, I guess you can say, musical than the K9s, but it is more technical for the price. It is one of the most detailed sets you can get at around $350 to $400 on sale. Then lastly, as for my personal favorite that is a little bit more unique and different from the others, these would be the ZGOT Odyssey. These are the cheapest and the best quote-unquote value out of the bunch. It is a bassy, contrasty and fun set that also scales pretty well. You get a great bass texture in the low end, but you get enough extension in the vocals. You get that bite when it comes to the consonants, and overall it's just a very musical set that will take you on a odyssey. Moving on, if you want something more bass heavy but still well rounded and pretty balanced overall, then the options here are still the T-Pros, the Hi-Force, the Estrellas. If you want the thickest, warmest, most body playback, that would be the T-Pros while having the technicalities. If you want the most balanced and great bass texture on top and the smoothest, least energetic treble, that would be the Hi-Force. And as for some more neutral and clean, balanced all-rounders, if you want something that is smooth, just well balanced overall, it's not gonna break the bank, these would be the new Odyssey 2s. They are just very vanilla, but they do the job if you want a balanced, neutral, smooth set that has a slight vocal emphasis. But if you want something that is flatter, more technical, less, traditional in the vocals, these would be the Canon Pros and the U9 TREBLE. The main difference here is that the Canon Pros are going to be slightly more technical, airier, and overall cleaner with a sub-bass, slight sub-bass focus, whereas the TREBLE is going to be, just more neutral, less detailed, but fuller in the mid bass. And both of these scale pretty good, so just depending on which kind of sound you're looking for, either one of these would work. And both of these replace the Dusk and the Pilgrim for me, as they are just a better version of those in my opinion. Moving on, for the best detail and technical performance, we got the SimGot EM10s and the ZGOT Horizons. The main difference here is that the EM10 is going to be bassier, it's going to be more forward in the vocals, it's going to be more traditional Harman-esque in the overall presentation, whereas the Horizon follows the newer meta tuning. It's less forward in the vocals. It has a slightly brighter tonality, so depending on what you're looking for, these two are a pretty good option when it comes to details. Then as for treble, if you're looking for something that is slightly bright leaning, my rec here would be the ZGOT Horizons and the Lecture Condenser 4. The main difference here is that the Horizons are sparklier, they pull in more detail, they have a little bit more dynamics, slightly sharper in the transients. Overall, a more lively presentation in the treble, whereas the Condenser 4, it's smoother, I guess you can say cleaner and less in your face in the treble, and overall slightly more laid back compared to the Horizons. Another option here would be the Kyrios Septet. This is fuller, more grounded, it has more body to the notes, but you still get the extension, the brightness, the airiness, the sparkliness as well. If you want something more quote-unquote unique and the most different out of all of them, then give the Septet a shot. An honorable mention would be the Meyer Slevo CK2V. These are a bassier version of the Horizons, slightly more V-shape, and basically what the Brain Damage should have been. As for vocals, if you want an all-rounder, something more traditional in the sound, something that's gonna work for multiple genres, I would say recommend the Studio 4s on sale. You can get these for around like $350. Very clean, very just well balanced overall with good sub bass, good vocals, good treble extension, just a solid all-rounder vocal set. However, if you want something that specializes more towards male vocals, these would be the Software Volume S with the bass boosted configuration. These are nice and full, natural, smooth. You get the body, you get the no weight, but you also get the extension and power to back it up. Very good option for male vocals. On the other hand, if you're looking for female vocals, you got two options here. The Condenser 4 is a good option if you want a little bit more treble, slightly bright leaning, clean, smooth, airy. You get some sparkliness that gives it that angelic presentation to the female vocals, whereas the Tantrum Force is more forward, is more vocal centric, less treble, less bright leaning, more, I guess you can say, neutral, but very forward in the vocals, but overall just very smooth, clean, and a good, powerful vocal presentation. Then lastly, as for my personal favorite, these would be the Zigat Arcanus. I have mentioned these a lot because I like them a lot. They are more unique in the overall playback. It scales good, it's clean, it's powerful, it's got the technicalities, but on top, you get the special sauce in the treble where it gives you that goosebumps when it comes to consonants and the end notes. Next, as for worm and bass head sets, starting with the worm sets, my rec here would be the Zigat Luna and the Zigat Crescent depending on your preference. For example, the Luna are very warm, smooth, airy. It gives you that nostalgic and kind of like, sunset feeling to the sound, whereas the Crescent is still warm, but it's more sparkly in the overall presentation versus the smoother and airier sound of the Luna. So very similar, but also slightly different, but both of these would work very good if you want something that is warm, but not completely just like neutral, and it has some, uniqueness to the treble. An honorable mention here would be the Kiwiers KE4s. These are the warmest out of the bunch. They scale good, and they are the cheapest out of the bunch as well, but they're not going to be as technical as the Lunas, not as refined in the treble, not as airy, and it doesn't have the sparkliness, the special sauce either versus the Crescent. So if you're on a budget, these are a good option, but if you can, I would save up for the Lunas or the Crescents. Then as for a bass headset, my pick here would be the Punch Audio Martellos. These are fantastic for the price. They are pretty much the same as the HBB Punch, which is like a value monster on its own when it comes to bass heads. Main difference is that it doesn't have VSTs versus the Punch, and it's less smooth, less full, but a little more V-shaped, more energetic, and a little bit sharper in the imaging. So depending on the type of sound that you're looking for, the Martellos, I would put it at the same tier as the Punch, but just a little bit cheaper. Now, as for scaling, if you just want the set that you can crank it up the most when it comes to the volume, you don't actually have to spend, over $200 for these. You can go for the Zigat Lush if you want something that is clean, slightly vocal centric, or you can go for the Explorer if you want something that is bassier and darker than the Lush. Those two are gonna scale much better than the more expensive sets. They are less technical, but if you're just looking for scaling, I wouldn't, spend more than $200 for that. Then if you want a bassy set that scales very good but not fatiguing, pretty smooth, you get enough extension, you get enough transients, but mainly you're here for the bass, the low end, then these would be the HBB Arcadias, a very fun bassy listen at higher volumes. And an honorable mention here for scaling would be the Yang Cannon Pros or the U9 Trip. These do scale pretty good, but they are a lot more expensive and they don't scale as good as the cheaper Lush and the Explorer. But the main upside to these two is that they are slightly more technical than the Lush, than the Explorer. So if you want technicalities, but you don't want to crank it too much, then these would be a good option. But if you're just here for scaling, then try some other sets like the Lush and the Explorer. Then finally, as for the best value IEM when it comes to price to performance, my pick would be the Zigat Horizons. These punch above its price category. They sit, higher than the Dust, the Pilgrim, around the same as the Volaire, the Mega 5 ESTs, the EM10s. So in terms of just pure detail retrieval, separation, the imaging, the micro nuances in the treble, at $329, these are a very good option. The only main drawback is that it is slightly bright leaning, so you can't crank it up too much. It's not that good when it comes to scaling. However, if you're just looking for the best bang for your buck when it comes to performance, the Horizons are one of the best at its price range. However, if you don't mind something that is more Harmon, more forward, a little bit more shouty in the vocals, I guess you can say less unique in the overall sound, these would still be the SimGot Supermix 4. They punch very, very close to the Horizons, around the same as the Dust and the Pilgrim, but for more than half the price of the other sets at around like $120, $130 on sale. So if you want the cheapest, but still very technical, just not as technical as the Horizons, then the Supermix 4 would still be good as well. But aside from that, I hope this ranking and guide was helpful. Let me know what your favorite IEMs are at around $350. Let me know what you are thinking of upgrading to if you are coming from something cheaper. But aside from that, thanks for watching, and I will see everyone in the next video.
Shout out to Dom Q, Rox Cat, B Urac, Discal Scaldus, Walker Standard, Patrick, User, Contain Quaba Juice Games, Mr. Gorillas, Polly J, Giseng Young, Christopher Jackson, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Wizard, Obi, Treble Extended, Frickalicious, Ricardo, Tapis Art, Choco Norris, Shem Bakale, FKSRG, Cousin Fat Fat, Julius Phillip, Dead Riddle, Belha, Ardmore, Nico, Parham, Addy, Michael, Trackstar LL here, Sharjip, Ryan, Shuri, Raphael, I'm J-Rack, Ori, June, Hakase, Efinadim, EGC, Raj, Chimika, Javier, CB952, Gelbog, Sanadan, AK131, Brian Carson, Emin Gelato, Sunfire, Ninjak Wick, Joey, and Mr. Combat 45. Thank you guys so much for the support.